questions, digging so sharp. Peeling back layers, hitting the heart.
Thank you so much for having me on. A pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you doing this. I don't think I was super familiar with you or your career, and then I just started going down the rabbit hole, and I was like, oh my God, he was this, he did this. Like, I got so many questions, and I hopefully I don't repeat too many things because I listened to some other interviews, but wow, you got some great stories. You've done some amazing things, and also not music things. You're doing painting and such.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. Did you just, so are you able to just fully focus on music and painting and only do creative things, or do you have to do other things to help pay the bills and such, or you just can you live off the royalties?
I've been blessed just to be able to ping pong between the two medias.
Wow, that really is blessed. I mean, there's a lot of people that would love to just do their art for, and that's what all they had to do.
Well, you know, it's like painting is sort of like my silent music, and then so when I kind of just run out of musical just energy, I'll just go and start painting, and then I'll just go back to recording. So I have like a 2,500 square foot industrial space that I paint in. That's about 9 minutes away from my house, luckily. And then I have a small recording studio at my house.
Wow, that is great. Yeah, it's like, I think I heard you say that you'll get burned out on music, and then you'll do painting, and then you'll get really into painting, and then you'll get kind of burned out on that, and you go back to music.
Yeah, exactly.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's kind of how I do with my podcast. Like, I have a variety of guests. Like, I'll do a lot of musicians, and then
are we recording right now?
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
Okay.
Yeah, I cut some of that stuff out at the beginning.
Okay.
Technical. Yeah. But yeah, I was just saying, like, how with my podcast, I'll interview a lot of musicians, and it's so fun. And then I'll get burned out on that, and then I'll just have like authors, and I'll get into these really intellectual things, and then I'll be like, okay, this is too much. I need something more fun. And then I'll talk a musician. I'm like, oh, this is so fun. And I just ping pong back and forth. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, great. I saw that you. I watched actually the video, the interview you did with Oni.
Oh yeah, are you friends with him?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I before I joined Journey, it's a funny story. I was supposed to go and have a meeting with. Well, actually, I was supposed to go to San Francisco, and they were still on the road. So they were gone. They were on the road for like a month and a half, I think. And during that month and a half, me being in Los Angeles and waiting to go to San Francisco to meet up with them, I got a call from George Lynch, and so I thought, yeah, I'll go and play with him. So I played with George for a while.
Oh yeah, I thought I heard you say something about you jammed with him, Mick Brown, and Jeff Pilson.
Yes.
Like, were you gonna like take over for Don Dokken? Was this gonna be a new band?
This was way before even that.
Oh, okay. So before Don Dokken joined, or?
Yeah.
Okay. And so
yeah, that was like they were just starting out.
Okay. Did you guys have a name for that at that time?
No, it was like for 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And then I got the call to go up to San Francisco, and I went up there to join up with Journey.
Yeah. I heard you say something about working with George, like it was hard to kind of corral him in, and you told him basically his songs needed to have structure. And
yeah.
Then later he thanked you for that, right?
Yes. Yeah. I saw him sometime last year. I saw him sometime last year at the end of the summer, and it was great to see him. And we talked about possibly getting together and playing. At one point, I wanted to do a record with a lot of friends that I've met through the years, and we always go, hey, let's get together and play. So I was going to do all these little mini super bands, and I was going to go and record and also go cam everywhere and just videotape it. And And I unfortunately I didn't follow up through that because my wife was very sick with cancer at the time. So I just it just fell through the fell through. So maybe in the future or something like that, maybe I'll entertain that thought again.
Yeah, I think that is a great idea because the problem with music now is, of course, there's the streaming, so everybody can put out an album and it's really competitive. So I think one way that you get around that is you throw some big names on your record. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Billy Morrison. I had him on. He was a guitar player with the Cult. And so he's friends. He's got like Ozzy Osbourne and Corey Taylor from Slipknot, like all these huge Billy Idol and stuff, like on playing, helping out on his solo record.
Yeah, that's what I was basically going to do.
Yeah,
I was Frankie Bonelli was going to play,
sure.
but you know what happened to him.
Yeah.
And Frankie was my first drummer when I did my first album for Arista Records, uh, uh, Perfect Stranger album that I did for Arista, and I toured opening up for Van Halen also. And so Frankie was with me during that time, also playing drums. So I've known Frankie I knew Frankie for many, many, many years.
Yeah, that Perfect Stranger album alone, I mean, you had some crazy guests on there. Chris McVie from Fleetwood Mac and the sax player from Supertramp. And I mean, it was like
Yeah,
Neil Sean from Journey, obviously. Like, I mean, some great guests on that one too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was that was my first kind of like my learning experience and being in the studio and spending months in a studio and just absorbing everything that goes on to make a record.
Yeah. Didn't you say that Chris McVie was drunk and you had to
Yeah.
re-record his like line or whatever, his bass line?
Yes. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was whacked.
You must have seen a lot of that throughout the years, like all these big names that you worked with, like touring with Van Halen. I'm assuming they were not in the 12-step program at that point. That was like when they were drinking and going a little
Oh
wild.
yeah. I now that all the information about the band and all the turmoil within the structure of the band, um, looking at it from now and looking in the past, they didn't like him even in the beginning. So
David Lee Roth, you're saying?
yeah, they just didn't like him at all. It was the Running with the Devil tour, so that was a pretty new tour for them. That them going out, and so uh, Eddie and Michael and Alex would come and they would watch me do like two songs, and they would go backstage and get ready for their set. And so I would walk to my dressing room, and they'd have their dressing room door open, and they would go, "Come on in here, come on in." So I'd go in and I'd talk to them, and then we'd go like, "I wish we had you as our singer. I wish you were our singer." And I'm like going, "You got to be kidding me. I just didn't register or anything like that." And so, but they couldn't stand him. And I couldn't see why. It's unfortunate,
Yeah, didn't you say he was kind of rude to you? Like you would
Oh,
say,
he never said a word to me.
huh.
And everybody else with Van Halen, the crew, everybody were just like, like best friends to me.
So interesting. He is such a charismatic frontman, though. Like it's just interesting that I guess it was like more of an act that then off stage was he more introverted?
No, I didn't find them to be introverted. I just found them to be very just a lot of ego. Ego stands for edge God out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's a tough because the band is called Van Halen, and I mean Eddie was kind of the musical genius behind it, but then David Lee Roth obviously had his talents too. But I mean, if they could,
Yeah.
that was the thing when they could just put the egos aside and just they made amazing music and it was an amazing show. But yeah,
But even though what all that was on the surface, interior wise,
yeah,
it wasn't good.
right. And I think that's the same when you look at a band. I don't know if you're familiar with like Skid Row and Sebastian Bach. I think is a similar kind of thing where they made amazing music, but behind the scenes, the band it was kind of similar. Like it was Rachel and Dave were the musicians, and it was their band, and they're kind of hiring Sebastian, but then Sebastian's like, well, this is my band, I'm the front man, and it's like it causes issues for sure.
Well, yeah, there's that thing called frontman disease,
Right. You don't seem to have that kind of ego, even though you could, based on how good of a singer you are and all the people you played with.
What for? There's nothing different than me or you. It's just I do something, and I envy doctors and lawyers. I go, I wish I could do what you do. And they go, oh no, I wish I could do what you do. And I'm just like, no, you don't want to wish what I could do. There's barely a time that you have your hands on the wheel of life when you're a musician. You can't really steer it where you want to go. It's just all sort of fate and having somebody help you direct your vision.
Interesting. So, but I mean, like with this latest solo record, this is all your baby, right? You got to pick the music, the style, like the musicians all the cover art and all that's all yours, right?
Yeah, I produced it all visually and musically. And so for about 6 years, I did nothing but paint because I was just tired of music. I just was just so bored with it. And I had I was at a dinner party with some friends, and everybody's going, when are you going to do another record? And I'm saying, well, I don't know. Well, you got to do another one. You got to do another one. So I'm driving home and I'm thinking about it. So I get home and I get on my couch and I grab my acoustic guitar and I plunk it. And I just go, I can't do this again. I can't do another album with the same ingredients, electric guitar, all that stuff. Everything's guitar oriented. And I've played with some great guitarists. I love guitar and everything, but it was at this point in my life where I just go, I'm so sick and tired of that. It's like getting white rice every day, And so I, in the early 80s, I grabbed a hold of some synthesizers. I had some friends who had different synths, and I borrowed them and I recorded on this I think a Tascam 13 track or something like that. And so I did I did some ambient music, and I did some techno music. And so I did that at the very early 80s, but I didn't get to release it until like 2004. So I had done that a lot. I visited that realm because when I was a kid, I used to hitchhike from I lived in Torrance, California, and I'd hitchhike to Santa Monica in California to Oberheim. They assembled their synths there in this old bike shop. So I used to go there and watch them assemble these synthesizers, and they'd let me play around with them. And then they asked me, hey, would you like to solder and all this stuff? And I go, sure. So I did that for a short time. And then after that, I met Paul Beaver and Klaus. And these were two guys that were actually Beaver introduced the Moog synthesizer to the Beatles. And because is where I think the first time synth was used. And so anyway, he introduced it to him, and I got to meet him. And I went to his house, and he had this big brick barn, and he had all these synthesizers there, and he had all these disassembled harpsichords that he bought when he went to Europe. And so he was assembling harpsichords, and he was talking on the phone with Robert Moog when I was there, and it was just just being around that. So when I got to the point where I just said to myself, I just can't do this anymore with a guitar in my hand. I decided I know what I want to do. I want to revisit the synth stuff that I did in the past and put it in song form. And so that's what I did. And it took me about 3 years to put it all together. I think I wrote like around 20 something songs. And
And then you
I,
just pick the best.
yeah, best out of the litter, that's what I would do. I'd write like 5 songs, and then I'd listen to them, and I go, well, that one's a good one, and that one's a good one. So, I picked 2 of them, and then I'd write another batch of 5, and then I'd pick the best out of that. So, I'm like, building your string of pearls, basically.
Yeah, the album's called Emotional Atlas. It's out now, I believe, right? It came out in November because I listened to it on Spotify.
Yeah, yeah.
And but there was I love the cover art, and then I think I heard you say there's a short run of CD and vinyl. Are the CD and vinyl still available?
Yeah, there's some still left. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope to get rid of them because I want to do another run, different artwork on it, maybe different colored vinyl, sort of like building a collector's, shelf.
Yeah. So the one song, Name of the Game, to me that sounds kind of like a Peter Gabriel or like a Talking Heads song. It's got an awesome bass line, which I think you had Chips Enough helping out on bass. Is that kind of what you were going for, or were you just creating music and I'm just thinking it sounds like that?
There was no intention to use anybody's template per se. Everything just kind of came out like it is. A lot of the time I would start out with a drum program or a drum loop, and then I would put like 3 layers of drones of different tones, and so I'd have these harmonics. I would hear these harmonics, moving between the 3 tracks. And then I'd put my headphones on and microphone, and then I would follow these harmonics, and then I would develop a melody over these harmonics. And then after that, I would put all the little spikes of this and this and this over it on top of it, and then it would eventually assemble into this whole picture.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it just starts out with this like a sonic landscape basically, and then I would sing over that, and then I'd place the trees, and I'd place the barns, and the fences, and create this sonic landscape.
Yeah, it's really great. I like the song too, "House on Fire," which sadly that's a little bit timely with the stuff going on in LA, but that's a very catchy song.
Yeah, Chip's playing that a lot on his show on Monsters of Rock.
Oh, that's very, yeah, I forgot he has that radio show. Yeah, that's a really good one. And then the song "Great Lake View," I mean, is that a real piano, or it sounds like a real piano, but I know that sometimes you could do a synthesizer to sound like a real piano.
Yeah, that's all synth. Yeah.
Is that do you live on a lake, or what is that in reference to?
I live right across the street from Lake Michigan.
Ah, okay. So that's
Yeah.
that's
You
where you
want to see it? Here, I'll
yeah, it looks like a nice place.
So there it is. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So
Looks cold, snowy.
it is. I was just out there.
Yeah. So this album is great. And is this gonna be the continuation of your solo career? Is this more stuff like this, or are you gonna just bounce around and do different things?
Well, right now I'm actually assembling. I'm doing an ambient uh, piece. There's a label in the UK that puts out ambient albums, and so I got about 3 songs that I'm going to present to them and see about them releasing or taking that project. So I'll be doing that. And the other thing is the Emotional Atlas album is also mixed it in Dolby Atmos.
Oh, okay. And then,
Yeah.
so are some of these songs, do you think that you would use this stuff for TV and film and soundtrack? Because you've done some of that work in the past, right?
Yeah, that's what my manager is doing, and she's well versed in placing songs in movies. So, selling your album on your website or Spotify and all that stuff, you make no money, basically, hardly any money. The only way that you can make money is getting placement in movies and all that. So you can get a big check from those placements.
Is that a majority of the royalties is from your songs that you've written and recorded being placed in movies and TV?
Well, I've been fortunate to have, Wheel in the Sky, Anytime, Winds of March, play on the radio for over 40 something years. So, and it's played every day all over the world. So, for all that time, I've, received my royalties for all that. Yeah.
So you get royalty when it's played on the radio. Like
Oh,
I know
absolutely.
Sirius is really good about that because I have
Well,
comedians.
what I'm getting at is a conventional radio, like in the day radio. A lot of these radio stations, they're all, it's all tapes. So you have classic rock stations, and it's all tape looped, and they put all those songs. So my songs are in those loops.
Yeah, and then other songs too. That I mean, everything adds up, right? It's all just a nice little royalty check that comes in.
Yeah, that's what's given me the liberty to just to be a creative soul,
Yeah. Did I hear you say something too about Wheel in the Sky? You wanted to kind of re-record your own version because you were upset that the song didn't have a bridge in it?
Well, I had the bridge, and by the time I got a hold of everyone, the song had already been recorded with Roy Thomas Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think songs are not a song unless they have a bridge in them. That's kind of my stickler.
Right. Yeah. And for people who don't know, I mean, you've told this story a million times with like how you got the Journey thing was like, it's like basically you had this booking agency and they kind of set you up, but then it wasn't like you were fired or kicked out. It was just that someone else was really championing Steve Perry.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like you were like, oh, because you continued to even write with them after you left the band, right?
Right. Yeah. I went up a couple of times to write with them when they were, after Steve left and they were between singers and all that stuff. And I just didn't want to do it because I didn't want to sing anybody else's songs and I didn't want to be compared to anybody else. It's like, Arnell has such he's like battling through the jungle, with a machete or like a kitchen knife, because he's gotten so much negative, but along with it, he's got a lot of positive for him being in the band, So he mentally fluctuates a lot. I'm quite sure, but I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to be the karaoke singer,
Did you have an offer at that point to rejoin after Steve Perry left?
Well, let's put it that way.
Yeah,
It could have been.
Could have been. I was just gonna say I interviewed Steve Algeri, super nice guy.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting talking to him and his tenure and journey was great, but then I think what happened was his voice started to burn out. Like those songs are not easy to sing, and so
it's like it's acrobatic. It's tight roping. You singing in that register for hours upon a time every day or whatever it might be. It's taxing. It's not like you can have a fever of 100 and play guitar on stage, but it's such a physical thing. It's a muscle, it's not like, mechanical dexterity. It's not that at all. It's just, it's very physical.
Yeah. Could you still do that if you wanted to? I know it sounds like you don't really want to do that, but if you wanted to, could you sing 10 or 15 Journey songs a night?
No, no. And I wouldn't want to. I don't think I could sing no. It's like, it's all that stuff is youth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're young, you can run, can you still fit in your, size 29 pants, waist, time goes by. Can you still run the 50-yard dash at 4 seconds and 4.5 seconds? No, it's just time goes by, and so for me, I've been really fortunate to have quite a spectrum of octaves to sing in. I was like around 4 octaves or something at one time, but it's just time goes by, and you just learn how to use your voice differently and still get your message across, but in a different fashion. I could never sing the Vinnie Vincent stuff again. That's bombastic.
Yeah, it is cool because like I'm listening to the new stuff, and like I said, to me, it kind of has that kind of David Byrne, Peter Gabriel kind of Talking Heads, lower registry. But then yeah, the Vinnie Vincent stuff. I mean, that stuff isn't. I don't think I had really heard a lot of that, so I had to listen. I was like, first of all, you can't even find your album. It's not on Spotify. It's not on iTunes, but you go on YouTube and you can listen to it. And it's crazy. Even today, I feel like, I don't know what you say if it stands the test of time, but it sounds insane how high you're singing and how crazy his guitars are. I see why that album has such a cult following. It really is amazing.
Yeah, it's like a like a cult Halloween thing. And it's just it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, the song Boys Are
And
Gonna Rock.
that's why I did it, because it was so wild. I mean, it was, for me, it was like getting a big bucket of paint and just throwing it on a canvas.
Yeah, I mean the song "Boys Are Gonna Rock." That is such an awesome song. Crazy vocals, crazy guitars, and I'm looking at the track listing, and I was like, "Wow, that's a really cool song." And then, I mean, I laughed out loud when I saw this one. There is a song on this album. I don't know how you guys got away with this. The song is called "Shoot You Full of Love." I mean,
Yeah.
that might be the greatest song title that you could probably even get away with putting that on FM radio. There's no curse words.
That's Vinny for you.
Yeah, I mean, when you saw that title, did you laugh a little at the time?
I laughed at a lot of stuff. There was things that I would not sing. I said, "You got to change the lyrics on this. I'm not singing this. No guy should sing this."
Really? What was that? Do you remember?
Oh, we said something like "cream in your pants." I go, "I got fucking cream in my pants."
I mean, Vinny just seems like such a character. Like I just heard you telling stories about him and how he drives with his legs crossed, and just like it just seems like such a funny guy.
Hey, I witnessed it.
Yeah, I mean, he was smoking. You said he was smoking weed or you were
No,
smoking weed.
no. He never smoked weed. He didn't.
But he wanted the contact high or something, right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, after a while, it was just like being in the studio was getting a little bit bombastic, and so I'm just going like, I'm gonna fucking roll a joint, and so I roll this joint, and I'm smoking it inside the studio, and he's like going, ooh, what is that? And I go like, and then I'd be blowing it over there, and just keep blowing it, and then he's going, oh, I feel kind of little tipsy, And so, okay, Dorothy, here's some more.
It's just the contact was enough for him. He seems like maybe he was a little drug sent. Like you said, he just drank a little wine occasionally. Like he wasn't.
Yeah, his blood like spring water. Everybody thinks he's like must be a dope addict or whatever, but no, he's completely straight.
Yeah, you really you've stuck up for him in a lot of the interviews I heard. And one of the things that was interesting is that you said a lot of his bad rap is based on the people he's surrounding himself with, management and stuff, that people that want a piece of the pie or whatever, and they're kind of manipulating him.
Yeah. I would tell him, I said, look I said this before, you got to have your hand on the steering wheel of life. You can't just hand it over to somebody and then they crash the car and then you bitch about it, or you don't like the direction they're going and you bitch about it, but you don't take the damn steering wheel back, to put it back on the road. So that was kind of, unfortunately, what would happen around him. He would just get these people who just thought, oh, somebody from Kiss. So they glom onto him and just say anything they could to make him feel happy or great or whatever it was, or fill his ego. And then they would, and then it was the Titanic, you know.
Do you think we'll ever see him come back again and make new
I
music,
don't know. I
tour?
don't know. I don't know. I told him, I said, why don't you just go out and be like Steve Vai and just do instrumentals and forget being with a singer. I mean, he's so talented, you know, you could just do that and you'd still, you know, be hailed.
Yeah, because you
But
and you thought that he could have sang those songs
yeah,
himself. He didn't need a
yeah,
singer. He just didn't want to.
he just didn't want to. And I even told him you should do it several times. You know, you should just do it yourself.
Yeah. It sounds like he almost needs somebody like yourself that's going to come in and kind of mentor him and kind of help him out and not screw him over.
Well, yeah, but then even when you try to help him, he thinks you're trying to screw him.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. Yeah, because he is so talented. And now that I'm discovering the old Vinnie Vincent stuff, I'm like, wow, this stuff it really is amazing. I see why people always still bring him up 40 years later in this album and stuff, because it is pretty crazy.
Yeah, we after the I guess the Slaughter stuff and everything, he called me up and wanted. He said he had a bunch of songs and would I come in and you know, sing on them. And so he'd basically just give me the track, and then he would give me the lyrics, and he would kind of run through it a little bit. But basically, it was just kind of um, just improvise at the moment, and he would record it. And so then I would listen to it and I go, okay, I hear this, I hear this, and you know, let's make the second verse the same as the first verse because it's more in focus now. So I'd do that, but a lot of the time, a lot of songs didn't get to have that process with me, and he just kind of took over it. And so a lot of the vocal stuff on there, I cringe, but that I think it was called Armageddon or something, guitar or something like that.
Hmm.
And then I heard recently that he had gone in the studio and mixed it.
Hmm.
And but I had somebody said they heard it and they told me that they heard it and it sounded great. And I just you know, I thought, well, you know, we'll see what goes on. But it's never seen the light of day.
Oh, okay. I thought, yeah, because I saw something like Euphoria. Is like an
Yeah,
EP?
yeah, yeah. It's got all these different names for this
Okay.
thing. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's just basically demos that were never really solidified by me, basically.
So yeah, how does that work? Do you sign off on it and then he can do whatever he wants with it, or I mean, you're not going to
Well,
like sue him for it
I
or something?
I would just have them pay me to do the songs because you I just didn't have the faith of it seeing any monies in the future of it.
Right.
So I would just take for whatever I had, you know, I asked for at the moment.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Kiss connection, I found it interesting. So Gene Simmons reached out to you because he had some song that he wanted the title, and then you guys got to write a few songs together.
Yeah.
What's he like in that sense? I mean, he's so successful. Is he just really serious, down to business the whole time? And
Yeah, it's just his nature, you know. He just runs between those two walls, you know, and he's a very focused man. He you know, he's absolutely very opinionated. Um, but I got along with him really great. You know, he would call me up sometimes. He'd be in New York and just say hi. Or if I called him and I left a message, he'd get back to me within an hour or two or whatever. So he's always been great. And his kids and my kids went to the same school. And so we went. The kids went to Brentwood School in Brentwood. I can't remember. Warner was the name of the school, and so they would have Warner was a school where a lot of movie people, kids went to, a lot of production, lighting people, writers, all film scorers, everybody, all their kids went to this school, and his kids went there. And so they would have the most outrageous Halloween presentation at the school, at this big Halloween thing. So they get this auditorium and divide this auditorium into like 7 different little cubicle rooms. And so they asked me if I would do music for every room in the for the Halloween thing. So I did music for all these different rooms, and then Gene and Shannon were the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein. So you would go in this room, and there would be Gene, laying out on this table and doing the whole Frankenstein thing like that. So that's how we kind of like got to know each other, a bit more there. But
Wow.
he did call me up because I had a band with Tony Franklin and Rusty Anderson, who plays with Paul McCartney, and a guy named Gary Ferguson, played with Gary Moore or whatever. But anyway, I had a band. It was called Crown of Thorns. So that's what he did. He called me up and asked me if I was still using that name. So I said, no, I'm not using the name. You're more than welcome to it. So I let him have the name, and I guess he had some band he was working with, and that's what he wanted to name the project. And then after that, he asked me if I wanted to write with him. So I wrote with him during the Psycho Circus.
Oh, yeah. I kind of like that. I like that song anyways. I don't know about the whole album, but
they were working on that album when I was with, writing with Gene. And Gene and I wrote a couple of songs together, and then he used one of the demos that we did, which was a horrible demo. But I was, flattered that he put it on the Vault.
Oh yeah, but see, the Kiss fans, that you say it's horrible, but like to a Kiss fan, they love anything he touches. So
yeah,
I think
I would be like getting hearing a Beatles, bootleg or some outtake,
Well, yeah, and speaking of Beatles,
I get it.
Can you tell my audience the story that you actually got to meet George Martin and he gave your music the thumbs up?
Yeah. I think I was 19 years old or whatever, and I had a friend who had a 4-track, and I recorded 4 songs on it, and I got a meeting with Chrysalis Publishing, which was in Hollywood on Sunset. So I had this meeting, and I go there, and I can't remember the guy's name, but I go in the office and I give him my reel-to-reel tape, and he puts it on, and he's sitting across from me, and he's listening to my music, and he keeps looking over my shoulder, and I'm wondering, like, what's he looking at, And so at the last song was over, he looks over behind my shoulder again, and I turn around, and there's George Martin. And he goes, "You have some good ones there, lad." And he gives me the thumbs up. And so then after that meeting, I just went, I left the building. I walk out on the sunny sidewalk on Sunset. It's a beautiful day, and I got this big warmth of sun on me, and I just go, I'm going to be a songwriter. That's what I want to be. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a songwriter. And I just got the thumbs up from the Pope, And so that was, that's what drove me to this day, getting the thumbs up from George Martin. And I got to meet him a couple of times afterwards too. And he remembered, doing that.
Wow, that is such an inspirational story. Like that, I love hearing things like that. Do you think you've ever had that effect on somebody where you gave them the thumbs up and they were so enamored by that they pursued a career in music?
I don't know. I wouldn't want to take that kind of credit, but no,
I'm sure you have, with either directly or indirectly. I mean, like I said,
you're told certain things. It's like I've had people go, yeah, we got married to the song "Winds of March" that you did with Journey, or we were, anytime we got married to "Wheel in the Sky," or I had "Wheel in the Sky" playing when my kid was delivered at the hospital.
Is that
I
what,
get,
what was?
and it's like, wow, those are
Okay.
big milestones for those
Yeah.
people. And thank you very much for, you know, including me in your life,
When you wrote "Wheel in the Sky," did you think that it didn't seem like a? I guess I'd have to study the lyrics a little bit more. But what is that song really about? Because I didn't think it was a love story.
Um, it was just basically like some guy on the road, with his thumb out, hitchhiking through life.
Yeah. Okay. That's simple enough. Um, I wanted to ask you too. So I think the Perfect Stranger solo record that was produced by Jimmy Iovine, right? Who, for
Yeah.
people who don't know, this is if you're a fan of music, this is a name you should know because this guy's produced your record, but also U2, Tom Petty, Stevie Nicks. Then he goes on to found Interscope Records, and then he
Yeah.
also started the Beats by Dre, and I think that they did the foundation for like Apple Music. I mean, this guy's got to be at least a multimillionaire, if not billionaire. Is this guy just really brilliant? Is he an amazing hard worker? Is he just really lucky? Or is it like a combination of the three? I mean, I'm just fascinated by this guy that you got to work with directly.
I kind of a guy that will stab his way up the ladder of
Oh,
success.
huh.
Yeah. He's all involved with that P. Diddy crap too.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
I
Interesting.
was just it was just a matter of time when I look at the story. It's just a matter of time that something would happen.
Why did you see things like that when you were working on the album with him?
Oh yeah, yeah. He was quite the schmoozer.
Like underage people and stuff, or
No,
like?
no, no, not that kind of stuff. No,
Oh,
he was just he schmoozed everybody in the record industry and all that stuff.
but also you're saying it was not just the
But see,
schmoozing. It
he
was
he had this guy. He had the engineer Shelly Yakis, and Shelly Yakis was really the nucleus of his success.
ah, okay. So sometimes those people kind of know how to like. It's like it reminds me of a football coach that I'm looking at. That I think he just. I don't know that he was really that good of a coach. I feel like he just hired the right people to do the work for him. Does if that makes sense?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly,
Yeah, that's what
exactly.
it sounds like. Okay. So
Yeah,
he knew
but
how to
when
play
he
the
was,
game.
yeah, absolutely. And I saw him play the game and everything like that. It was a great experience. Like I said, I spent all that time in New York, and then later on we came back to L.A. and then we worked out at Sound City, and so he would work with me like around we'd start around 10:30, 11 o'clock, and then we'd go until about 6:30, and then around 6:30 Tom Petty would come, and so I would Tom Petty would come, and then they would start the sessions for what's that, Damn the Torpedoes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that album. That's what the album that he was working with. And so Tom would come in early sometimes, and he would hang out with me and stuff, and we'd play pinball, and we had a very mutual friend, Roger Lynn, who invented the Lynn drum machine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Playing
So,
pinball with Tom Petty, like your life is like pretty amazing. And you think about it, right?
well, I don't know. I think there's a lot. There's people out there who have a lot more exciting stories, and have schmoozed with a lot of different people. But I've had my fair share of run-ins with the famous and unfamous.
I mean, Tom Petty, that's a guy that I'm so mad at myself. I probably told the story a million times, but I was gonna go see him, and he was playing at Red Rocks. I'd never seen a concert at Red Rocks. I wanted to go, and I saw who was playing. It was Tom Petty, and I thought, oh wow, this is gonna be so great. the tickets were like $400 or $500, and I was like, I can't afford this. And I wish I would have just pulled the trigger because he died like 6 months later. I was like, damn
Oh
it.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really sad to hear him go. I really was. I thought he was such a sweet person just for even the short amount of time that we got to know each other. I felt like, he felt the same way about me. So, and I thought, what a brilliant songwriter, just
Mm.
incredible, brilliant songwriter. Have you seen Wildflowers, that documentary?
No, is that about him?
Yeah, it's about that
Oh,
whole album. It's
oh, I need to
amazing.
see that.
Oh,
I
you
love
definitely
him.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
He's such a good songwriter, and it's not like he just wrote like one hit. I mean, he has so many, even the songs that aren't hits are great.
Yeah, and I love that. I loved when they went out. The whole band went out with Dylan, and they played with Dylan. And when they played with Dylan, it sounded so great.
Oh, I didn't know about that. I just saw that movie about Bob Dylan. It was
Did you
really
like it?
interesting. Yeah, I did. My only complaint was I wanted more. I think it should have been like a mini series or something because that guy has such a, long career and they only focused on like a 5 year window, which
Yeah,
was
I
an
thought
interesting
I
window, but
loved it. I thought the ending was not to my liking,
really,
but I
what
think that kid, I think Timothy, whatever his name is,
Chalamet?
yeah, that guy did a great fucking job.
Yeah.
Hey, they spent 5 years to do that movie,
Yeah.
and
Is that
during that 5 years, you learned how to sing and play acoustic guitar, and so did the girl that played, uh,
Joan
uh,
Baez?
yeah, Joan Baez, yeah, her too.
She is beautiful. Do you think
Yeah,
that was an accurate portrayal of kind of the life of a musician? How he's like, kind of tinkering and like he comes into New York with like basically nothing, and then he's living at this girl's place and he's kind of bouncing around and he's and then like
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
during that time era, yeah, I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm pretty old, so um, yeah, I'm going to be 72 soon. So um, yeah, I remember that whole era. I had an English teacher that turned me on to Bob Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel, and at the time you had the Beatles and the Stones and stuff. So between all those people, that element, incredible lyricists. So I always gravitated towards the lyrics, and I I've always had fun with twisting words around and all that stuff all my life. When I was a kid at the dinner table, it was all just play with words and puns and all that stuff. So we're all kind of like very witty and just ping ponging
Well, that's
things
why
like
I
that.
love "Shoot You Full of Love." I think it's the funniest song title. I mean, yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that and Bob Dylan. I mean, that's full spectrum. That's what's so great about music is, and I think you feel the same way in terms of that's why your new album is more like synths and things because you've done the guitar thing. Like music isn't, you don't want to just be pigeonholed into one thing. It gets boring.
No, exactly. I mean, I never know when I go into paint. I never know what I'm going to do. I know sometimes I'll think about a couple of colors that I'd like to work with, and then I go into the studio with those colors in mind, and then everything is just kind of just off the cuff, just improvise at the moment, like jazz. You just improvise.
Do you have a favorite artist? Because for me, I think it's Salvador Dali. I think that guy is freaking brilliant. I think he's weird and I love it.
Well, Salvador Dali, yeah, there's nobody like him. I mean, he was an odd child. He um, he would when he went to school, he would stand. Everybody, all the kids would be down in the playground, and he would be the last one to go down to the playground, and he would stand on the top of these steps, and he would wait for everybody to look at him, and then he would fall down the steps.
I didn't know that. That's an interesting story. Wow.
Yeah, he was odd. I've read many books on him. My favorite era is the Impressionist era in Paris, and so I've read many books on him and Picasso and English painters like Francis Bacon and I love Frida Kahlo from Mexico and Diego Rivera. and then Americans, I like Julian Schnabel, and then I like the whole abstract expressionist movement during the 30s, also in New York. So I've always been a big art literature fan, reading a lot about different artists and stuff like that. And I've always so that's what Emotional Atlas is about. Emotional Atlas is like not being a musician. I put on a painter's cap on that. I tried not to do anything that was conventional. I didn't use the usual song template that I do for all my other songs. It was just very, very free form, and so there's some songs on there that don't have any chord changes, but because of the melody that I'm doing over it and the lyrics and the chorus lyrics, it gives it that impression that there are chord changes, but there really isn't any chord changes.
That's fascinating. Yeah, because I played guitar for a couple of years and I sucked, and I gave it up. That's why I'm doing this, and I'm interviewing people. I feel like I'm better at this than playing music, but it is so fascinating to see how it's made and put together. And I mean, yeah, people can listen for themselves, and they can listen on Spotify, and if they like it, they should buy the vinyl and support you. But yeah, I mean, the music is, I don't know what do you call it, what you say, but it's good. It's catchy. I like things that I can sing along to. Like, I feel like if you go too freeform, then it just like I don't know, like these jam bands like Fish, like that's not really my cup of tea. But this doesn't stray that far.
No, it's very song oriented. I've always been very song oriented. It's just sort of my my way of operating.
Yeah. Do you think there is a line between good art and craziness? Like, I mean, we talk about Salvador Dali. I mean, you look at the Bob Dylan, like, even the movie, like the girl says to him, like, Bob, you're kind of an asshole. Like, he's kind of a weird guy in the movie. And obviously it's based on real life. Like, do you think that some of the greatest art is made from
assholes
or assholes or like what, but just like, I feel like a guy like Tom Petty, like, I don't think it sounds like he wasn't an asshole, but I think maybe
Tom was a very, very humble man.
Yeah.
He's a humble guy.
Yeah. Cause I heard that he did not like being famous or whatever. Like, he would go to a restaurant and everyone would be like, oh my God, it's Tom Petty. And it made him very uncomfortable. So he just stopped going out. And I think he kind of hid. And I think, I don't know the details, but didn't he have some sort of issue with pain pills or something? Like, I think he was suffering.
Yeah, he was. Unfortunately, I guess one of the roadies got him something, and that's what did it.
Yeah. It's just sad to see. I mean, it's just, there's so many of these geniuses that are, in my opinion, I think they're like musical geniuses, but they're just, there's the suffering. I feel like some of that suffering creates good art, but then I think there's a point where the suffering becomes too much, and even creating art isn't enough to relieve it.
Yeah. I don't know. Not for me. I mean, I'm just too strong-willed, I don't jump in the pool because I'm supposed to jump in the pool, or people think you should be that way or this way or that way. I can't do that. I just kind of pretty conservative, actually. Pretty much in the center.
Yeah. Well, and there is that too, because it's like Aerosmith. I mean, they were all messed up and they made some good music, but then they got sober and they got their shit together. And then arguably they made what some people would consider better music, and they sound great. And I think Steven Tyler can still hit a lot of those notes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's another band. I mean, they're one of the greatest American rock and roll bands, truly. I mean, in America, who eclipses them?
I don't know. For me personally, I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan, so I don't know if
but that's over.
No, they're still touring arenas right now. I mean, in terms of, are you saying new music?
Look. Steven Tyler pretty much sounds pretty much the way he did in the very beginning, even now.
Yeah. he's a freak of nature, I think.
Right, but the other guy in Guns N' Roses, no,
Axel,
yeah, it's over. You know,
when he was in his prime, they said he had the biggest range of any singer ever, or something like that. I think
well, yeah, yeah, but
hard to keep that up forever.
after years of abusing yourself with drugs and lifestyle and not giving a flying fuck about anything, that's what happens.
Yeah, that does affect your voice, right? Smoking, drinking, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one thing I hated about being on the road with Journey and all that stuff, because I had to live like a nun. You
Mm.
know, everybody else would be going out, and I go, well, I can't have air conditioning in my room, and I got to worry about tomorrow, and hot taking hot showers and cayenne pepper and spicy soups and all that stuff, and just being afraid of being a germophobic, and just because it would kill me if I went the next day and I couldn't do what my head says to do vocally.
Right. Yeah, that is really hard. And again, like we said, those songs are not easy to sing.
No, no, no,
Do you
no.
ever hear people like, do you ever go to like a bar or something and just hear Journey being butchered in karaoke? And
Yeah, I have many times.
yeah, because I've heard that many a time. So,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, hey, I've been so blessed to be with something that has gotten so much love and notoriety, and to be associated with that. Um, is great, because you know before I joined the band was they did 15-minute songs. It was a rock jazz fusion band, and then when I got into the band, it was like, okay, we got a template here, we got song structures, we got songs that are under 5 minutes, here's how it goes, and I came in and I rearranged the furniture for that band, So I kind of find myself to be the architect of that sound. And fortunately, when I left, they continued it and became a big success.
right, because their initial stuff was much more like
Jazz rock fusion,
wasn't it longer songs, like 8 minute?
15-minute songs.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because Wheel in the Sky, I mean, that's clearly one of the best Journey songs. And it's what I like about it too is it's not as overplayed as, the one at the end of Sopranos. Like, did you notice a bump in your royalties after that song came out? Because then people are going back and discovering all the Journey songs.
Yeah. I mean, they even had Wheel in the Sky was on Sopranos too.
That's right. Yeah, that was on an episode as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps.
That helps. That's nice. Yeah, you've done so many things that I heard too that you tell me about this one. You once played with Michael Schenker and Cozy Powell. What was that project?
Um, wow. You know who John Kolodner is?
Yeah. Yeah, isn't he the guy from the Aerosmith videos with the big long beard?
Yeah, he's the A&R guy for Geffen Records.
Yeah.
So he used to he called me up and asked, he would call me up and just go, hey, I want you to go to England and play with this band. He called me up and go, hey, I want you to go to England and play with Asia. He would like, it was always like he was like, I was always like the round peg trying to be put in the square hole, or the square peg in the round hole. Yeah, I went to England and I played with Michael Schenker and Cozy, and Michael was very, very much a mess, and so he he was pissed off at the management because I was picked up in some limo at the airport at Heathrow, and so he was like pissed off and saying right in front of me, saying that he was pissed off that I was picked up in there in front of the management, and so it was like kind of like he had a grudge towards me, or it wasn't a good clear picture with me. And so anyway, we went in and rehearsed, and he would just swack down all this vodka, and he'd go in the back and do some whatever and all that. So then we'd have a break, and so me and Cozy we'd walk across these railroad tracks to this pub that was at the train station. So we'd have a couple of beers, and then we'd come back. And so on our way coming back, the Bobbies came and raided the rehearsal room that we were in, and I guess they were after Michael for something. And
Drugs or
I'm not going to say,
okay.
but you can come up with your own conclusion. But anyway, yeah. So I did play with him, and it wasn't very good. He had a hard time communicating because he was from Germany.
Mhm.
So it was really a hard thing to do, and he was just a mess. So I left that situation. And I went
Gotcha.
back home,
Yeah.
and then I was sent again to play with Asia.
Yeah. And that one, and then you also, wasn't there a brief time you were possibly going to become the new singer of Genesis after Peter Gabriel left, but then they got Phil Collins to take over vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that time when that was presented to me, I was too young. I was too young to be able to. I mean, Peter Gabriel, like fucking rocket science, scientist. And if I had come in there, I'd be like some kid that played, drew with Crayola. He was just so much deeper than I at that time in my life. I was very young. I was like 19, 20 years old. I wasn't literally, I hadn't read enough books yet,
Yeah. Is there any other ones that
got away.
offers that you got that got away, or people that you turned down that you could say without getting in too much trouble? Because I'm sure there must have. I mean, if these are some of the ones that I've heard you talk about, there must be some other ones that you just turned.
Well, I did go play. I did audition for Rainbow just before Dio. I did do that. Ritchie Blackmore was an idiot, and
What? Why?
he was just this idiot. He was just so disconnected from everything. He would his big stack of Marshalls would be here, and he'd be standing over on the other side of it with like a flamingo, with one leg and his other leg resting on his kneecap while he was playing guitar, like really weird. And so anyway, I did that. I was asked by Kansas when they decided that they wanted to come back and do a record. They did some tracks with Ken Scott, who was engineer for the Beatles, and so they were working with him, and I was called in to do some songs, and I think I did like 3 songs. I sang 3 songs or 2 songs, but nothing ever came about with that either. And because they never put the band together until way years later. But I had a great time being with Ken Scott and talking to him about him recording the Beatles, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then who else? Oh, Foghat. One time they called me in to play with them, and that didn't work out because they were playing in these drop tunings, and I couldn't sing that low, so it was like, and I didn't understand what was going on, why I couldn't connect, and so then later on I found out they were tuned to a whole half step down or whatever it was, and but during that time he's going, oh, you should learn how to sing, maybe you should go get singing lessons. And I'm just going like, fuck you, so
Weird.
yeah, but it was all because they have dropped drop the key. I can only sing in regular tuning, you know. It's like
Yeah.
I know where my sweet spot is. And that was the same thing that happened with Asia. They dropped their tunings also. So I couldn't connect with those songs. I just couldn't do it, and I just didn't have the nerve to go, hey, can you guys? And I didn't know that they had dropped the tuning, and so I just didn't know to say, hey, can you put it in regular tuning, and can we try it this way? You know, so that's two situations like that occurred.
Yeah. Did you work with D. Snider on an album too? Like you produced and played
No,
on
no,
his?
I sang backgrounds on one of his songs one
Oh,
of his.
just it was just one song. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So did you get to work with him? He's like kind of an interesting guy. I've had him on the show a couple times. He's funny.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't there during the sessions. I was only working with the producer that was working with the album. But eventually, I did meet him a couple of times, and he was a very nice guy.
Yeah. It's interesting when you meet all these legends. Like some of them are so genuine, and even though they're a little off or whatever, like Bob Dylan, but I mean they're just still so interesting. And then, like you said, like with the producer guy Jimmy Iovine, like that's like maybe a little bit darker path to success, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah. Time wounds all heals, you know.
Great stuff. Well, again, the album is called Emotional Atlas. It's available now.
Here's the album cover.
I love that album cover. It's so cool.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's done in it's all glossy paper. So like the old English albums in the 60s, and they have that photographic shine.
Mm.
So it's all very glossy like that, and it's a colored vinyl, and has a poster in there with the lyrics also. And it's a double album because the album's like an hour and 8 minutes, and so I couldn't get it all on one disc. So
Okay.
it's a 2-disc. So
Cool. Gotcha. Well, I'll put that link in the show notes so people could just click that link and buy that stuff. And I don't think you're doing any. I would promote tour, but I don't think you do a lot of live dates, right?
no, I don't. I don't do that anymore. I mean, it's just it's like George, for instance. I go see George, and I remember in the day they were all traveling around in a bus, and things were better. And then you go see them now, and they all climb into a freaking van and drive 1,000,000 miles to get to the next gig. And it's just not the same. It's so it's rough. It's rough. So people that go out to see these bands really should just realize the effort and the sacrifice they're doing just to play in front of you, because it's very rough now.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like from all the musicians I've interviewed.
Yeah, and Spotify doesn't pays you pennies. So when you buy an album from an artist, you're helping them so much. They would have to have so many airplays on Spotify or iTunes to get that $25 or that $50 for that particular item. I mean, it's just it's a shame. It really is a shame. And so it seems like the industry just seems to just want to make it so difficult for people to be artistic and to put out music. You're raped before you even put it out. So support everyone, support artists that you like, and buy their CDs or buy their albums or buy their merch, because they don't make any money through Spotify, and everybody listens to your music for free, So just give back a little bit, and I think it's terrific that there's people like yourself that go and champion us, to musicians and their projects. So, big kudos to you too.
Thank you. Yeah, I do my best. I'm hoping to grow the show and get it bigger so that I can help more people out. And that's my dream one day, is to be like big enough where people are wanting to come on my show, that it gives their stuff a bump, like a big bump that's noticeable. So hopefully this helps out a little bit. And yeah, I always try to support artists by having them on. Also, yeah, same thing. Like, I go to concerts, I buy the merch, because yeah, you're not really making any money off of the Spotify streams, unfortunately.
Yeah, and people go to Starbucks, and a whole month's worth of Starbucks coffee could buy a great album, and you can have that and play it anytime you want.
Yeah, I think it's cool. There's some people that really like having those physical copies, and so that's great that you're selling that for those people too. Because I mean, that's not only just a big moneymaker, but also like it's just cool for those people to have that piece of history and collect it and stuff. It's really neat.
Yeah, I mean, it's supply and demand. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a Twinkie. You got to buy it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Anything else you want to promote?
No, just keep what you're doing. Really appreciate it. I really, like your channel that you have. You've interviewed some neat people, and just keep it up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hope to see you again sometime soon.
Yeah, anytime. Let me know next time you want to come back.
Hey, are you going to go to that Rockin' Pod?
I didn't have plans to, but if you want me to go, I'll go. Yeah.
Well, I just figured, there's going to be a lot of people like yourself there.
Okay. Are you going?
So I was invited to go there. So okay. I will be there in April at the Rockin' Pod in Nashville.
If I'm there, I will come and say hello.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Right, thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Every topic, one of a kind. From the rockers to the wise men.